Remember, Zanu PF has more in common with a criminal organization than a political party.
This country is being looted hook, line, and sinker, sold to any bidder, whether they are from the west or the east. You saw those guys. Those are white people. Those are not blacks. And those are people that are benefiting from the reserves. But what do? You see ordinary people, Zanu PF supporters, being told that no, this country is being destroyed by sanctions.
Land Cruiser Prado bearing a Zimbabwean number plate was suspected of transporting precious stones.
Jen?
Now this is the free talk. The government of President Emerson Dambudzo Mnangagwa has said that it is setting a $12 billion United States dollar mining industry in Zimbabwe. And this mining industry has vast resources, which include platinum, gold, chrome, and a whole lot of other mineral resources that we are not aware of, even coal. But there's been a human mining conflict in this country, an investor conflict as well with local communities. And this has left many people unhappy, displaced, and at times they have lost their land to mining ventures without compensation adequately. Now, on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. With me, your host as usual, Dara B. We explore these issues, mining for the community or mining against it. Join me after this break for more. Now, welcome back to this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. I, your host as usual, Dara B. Now, let's get down to some business. This evening, my guest, Farai Mugu, an environmental activist who has been looking at these issues around mining, especially the diamond mine in Chiadzwa, coal mining in Oange, and the devastation or the effect that it has had in communities, alluvial mining, and the Chinese interest in our minerals. Thank you very much and welcome to this.
Thank you, Dara.
Beautiful. Now let's just talk generally, maybe as a way of self-introduction, the work that you do and why you think it's important.
Thank you very much. The work that we do at the Center for Natural Resource Governance, its goal is to defend the rights of communities affected by mining and other extractive industries. That alone tells you a story. When you defend something or someone, it means it's under attack. And we came up with this goal against the background of government turning to mining as the mainstay of the economy, which was a bit of a shift from agriculture, which used to be the mainstay of the economy of Zimbabwe. But we noted that the switch by government to mining came with a lot of baggage that is often not talked about. For example, the issue of land grabbing, where the state is now flexing its muscle and telling the people that the land does not belong to you. Traditional leaders that we knew to be custodians of the land and culture suddenly are turning against their own people and telling them that the land does not belong to you. We are seeing massive displacement of people, sometimes at gunpoint. We are also seeing what we call externalized cost of mining, which the communities must bear. They have to sometimes lose their water sources. They have to let go of what we call the commons, like the grazing land, the forest where they get fruits, where they get firewood, and other needs which they have at the local level, which they are met by this forest. We are also seeing undermining of our cultural rights, where mining is taking place. Even the dead are not being spared. They're digging up graves, exhuming them, reburying them. When we bury our loved ones in Zimbabwe, we wait for each other, we gather as a family, we mourn, we grieve. But when they exhume, it's an excavator and a driver, and a bit 3 or 4 people. And that is traumatizing the communities. And it's against that background that we are saying mining is now undermining development. Mining, from the way the government is presenting it and the way the grassroots communities are seeing it, there is a contradiction. And our work is a call to dialogue to say, as Zimbabweans, we are blessed with vast mineral resources, over 60 of them. But if we don't engage with one another, that's where we begin to say we are a resource-cursed people, where abundance of natural resources bring pain, death, and destruction, and even a social dislocation. Like I said, traditional leaders are now turning against their own people because some of them receive a bribe, and now they start telling their people, you must get away and allow the investment.
So Fry, when we have a conversation, it is important not to keep it in the abstract. Yeah. Say there's certain people and certain. I think it is important to actually give a case study, because you are in that space and you have had to intervene in some spaces. So I would kindly ask you to be able to point out what communities so far, or what areas have you found that you have had to assist, or that you have had to have dialogue, so that you have this cohesion or this talk among communities for a better way of exploring these resources?
Well, the first was the Marange case, where the diamonds were discovered, and of course the community was uprooted. There was a lot of violence. About 1,300 families were forced off their land. Also, thousands of graves were exhumed. We have been on the ground, first to investigate what's really going on, and talking to the community, the traditional leaders, the politicians, and the mining companies as well. So you find that the people want to engage, but sometimes the companies, because they are benefiting from this asymmetrical power balance, to say to them, come and let's have a round table with all the stakeholders, it's not been easy. We also have the case of Dinde in Matabeleland, where a Chinese company called Bifa Investment arrived there around 2019 and began to peg in people's fields, and it unsettled the community, and we had to go in there. We had to rope in parliament to come, because the community was also disputing the environmental impact assessment process, that we did not participate in this thing. We were only called to a meeting and we signed attendance registers, but we did not say, go ahead with the project. So again, we had to intervene to protect the community. We are happy that the Dinde community is still on their land, but the pressure to displace them is still coming. These are only few. We have Premier Estate in Mutare again, where we had to be called by the community because a Chinese company is demolishing. Even hills are disappearing. They are blasting, sometimes even at midnight. And imagine someone is sleeping about 100 meters from the top of the mountain. It's 1 a.m. Boom! There is a blast. Even the livestock they've not been spared. They will be running away to kilometers further away from where they used to graze because they're afraid of the blasting. So there are hundreds of other communities that I can talk about, but this is just a snippet of what's going on.
Amazing. In Matebeleni, what mineral is there?
It's coal. And they wanted to mine coal and also set up a thermal power station in that community.
This is sometimes placed you crosshairs with government. And at some point, government accused you of trying to carry favor with the Americans, especially around the diamond aspect. And you were labeled a state enemy. Let's talk about that.
Yes. I was arrested in 2010 after investigating the human rights abuses that took place in Marange. It was a very painful moment to me as an individual because the research took me to mortuaries where I saw a lot of dead, bodies. I spoke to people with horrific injuries, dog bites. I heard stories of people that were arrested by guards, hands were tied in the back, dogs were set on them. Some even died during those attacks. Now, when I do this work, I don't even think of another country or America or European Union or whatsoever you can think about. I think about a Zimbabwean brother. I think about those women that spoke to me shedding tears about what had happened to them. I think about those families that I visited who are mourning their loved ones. So those who seek to cast aspersions by giving me a tag that this is Western sponsored, I think they're just unfortunate people. But our work is validated by the communities that we serve. So if you go to Marange, they appreciate that the work that we did slowed down the violence because the Kimberley process had to come and to engage the Zimbabwe government. At one time, Zimbabwe was stopped from exporting diamonds until they attended to the human rights violations in Marange. So I really think that we saved people from slaughter. We slowed down the abuses. They are still happening even today. But I really feel that many people, including those in government, appreciate the work that we did to bring these issues to light.
But why would a government be unhappy when you are bringing such issues to their attention for their action? Are they complicit in this? Are they beneficiaries in your investigations?
Yes, I think that is the problem we are having because ordinarily we should be an ally of the government in addressing these people. I'm not a politician. I've never sought to be voted by anyone. It is their people that we are talking about. So the problem we now have is that you have some ruling elites who have arrived. When I say they've arrived, I mean they have everything they want. And the minerals is theirs. So they see anyone who want to benefit from those minerals as a thief who want to steal from them. So the use of torture is used to inflict maximum harm as a deterrent that if somebody is tortured, they call it deflating the tires, whereby people are forced to sit and they beat under the feet until a person cannot walk. There are some people with power, be it security, military, political, who feel the diamonds belong to them as individuals.
And not to the nation.
Not to the nation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they use ruthless tactics, which a normal government would not do that. But the other problem is also that when the diamonds were being extracted by the ordinary Zimbabweans, there was a flow of money in the nation. There was liquidity in the market. The money was felt by every Zimbabwean, wherever you are. Even if you are in Bubi, you would feel the power of Marange diamonds. But the moment government moved in 2009 and said the diamonds are now under companies, that's when the diamond wealth dried up. And the little we had was in 2016 when Mugabe said, we have stolen 15 billion from the Zimbabwean people, from Marange. And after that, again, there's been silence until now. There is a lull. No one is talking about diamonds, but diamond mining is still happening.
What is happening? What is happening behind that silence?
Well, I believe there is a continuation of pillaging, because when you look at, let me talk about the marketing of the diamonds, okay? The man who is marketing or who is buying Zimbabwe's diamonds is called Paolo Pesica. He's an Italian guy based in Dubai. There is no paper trail to explain how that character ended up having a monopoly over Zimbabwe's diamonds. If you do a Google search, you'll find that he was once arrested in DRC and he spent 12 days in detention there. And, there was some charges of arms trafficking. So he's a criminal. And he's the guy who is buying all the diamonds produced by ZMDC and Anjing. And you start to ask the questions, why do we attract such people to access our minerals? You also see that even before this Pesica came on board, we had people like Sempa, a Chinese guy. He was the head of a criminal network called the 88 Queensway Syndicate, which was based in Hong Kong. He had a flying hotel, an aeroplane that he was using as for his business he runs in Africa. The guy is an international criminal who he had more than 9 names and more than 9 passports. He is the guy who was also buying diamonds from Zimbabwe and taking them wherever he was taking them to. So that explains why diamonds have failed to make an impact in our economy.
But government has come to you, and others, and said you are losing the bigger picture. The bigger picture is that Zimbabwe's economy is hinged on mining, and because the government itself or companies in Zimbabwe themselves don't have resources to extract those minerals, that's why they need these partners for this extraction. Does that make sense to you?
Well, no one can speak against the need for investors. We need investors. But I think government needed to differentiate between what the local people can extract. The difference that mining can make is determined by the amount of profits that remain in the country. So in the case of Marange, for example, there is no need for Zimbabwe to engage a Chinese to come and do chikorokosa in Marange. If our people are able to dig those diamonds with picks and shovels, the money circulates locally. There's no need to stop them or to use violence to keep them out. If you want Zimbabwe's economy, even the zig, to shape up, just open Marange for 1 week to the local people and you see what will happen. There will be massive circulation of money.
But is that how minerals are managed? I mean, the world over, I've not seen people doing such kind of mining that anyone can start mining diamonds.
No, it's greed that gives you that perspective of people who say when they find these diamonds, they say, it belongs to us. Ghana, in terms of gold, they have allowed artisanal miners to mine gold. You put up a mechanism where they sell the gold to the state. Zimbabwe itself, in 2007, when Gideon Gono was the Reserve Bank governor, he set up a facility where the MMCZ used to go to Marange, not to arrest anyone, not to fight with anyone, but to buy diamonds from artisanal miners. That's how Gono managed to estimate that Zimbabwe was losing about 1.2 billion per month. How did he come with that estimation? It's because MMCZ was buying diamonds from artisanal miners. So there is nothing unethical or criminal about formalizing artisanal mining in diamond sector. In 2012, Zimbabwe is a member of the Kimberley process, by the way. When the United States was chairing the Kimberley process, there was what is called the Washington Diagnostic Mechanism on artisanal mining. It was to formalize artisanal mining and to help governments to come up with laws and mechanisms to make sure that instead of killing their own people and torturing their own people, they can give them some legal documents to formalize their access to diamonds.
So, just a few weeks ago, government announced in its during cabinet briefing that it is going to stop alluvial mining. Before we go to that announcement, let's talk about how deep or how bad is alluvial mining affecting Zimbabwe's environment.
It's terrible and it's scary. If anyone is not scared about the environmental Armageddon that is unfolding in Zimbabwe, they are simply not paying attention. But when you look at Odzi River in Mutare today, it's now muddy because there are some Chinese who are mining upstream. And they don't care about the environment. They just offload their mud into the river, and it goes like that. Upstream, around the Premier, there is also both our local Makorokoza, then there are the Chinese Makorokoza who are also mining in the same stream. You go to Shurugwi, it's another area where there is environmental carnage. The Boterekwa mountain range is fast disappearing. So the ban on alluvial gold mining along rivers, well, I still feel that the government needed to engage the stakeholders so that the ban is not just an announcement. If they really want enforcement of that ban, there is need to engage and say, what shall we do? Above all things, all those things must be put into law. You don't go to court with a cabinet decision. You go to court because a law has been violated. So there is need to incorporate those changes into the Mines and Minerals Act and the EMA Act of 2002 and ensure that the ban is effective at law. Otherwise, it becomes just a political statement.
I was in Shurugwi, and we'll just basically show some of those images from along the river in Shurugwi, and miners there who were practicing alluvial mine showed us that there was mercury in the water. Even the environmental management agency, they decried the erosion and the degradation that was happening along that river. But to them, whilst they are aware of that, they can't act because of political interference. Now, in your experience, have you seen or come across this political interference, and how big is it?
That's the elephant in the living room when we talk about safeguarding the environment. I believe EMA is well equipped with the right people who have the knowledge, but their work is being impeded because whilst people see the Chinese, doing all those things, the reality is that there are some powerful politicians who are shareholders in those Chinese entities. So when they see those companies which are violating and destroying nature, to them, there's no longer distinction between government and those corporations, because the same person who is benefiting from that criminal act is probably the same person you're going to see sitting in the government office who is responsible for ensuring that those things are stopped. So you've got state-embedded actors who use their power to undermine the law that they are supposed to protect and uphold. And as a result, the Emma people now fear that they may lose their jobs if they are to enforce the law. In some extreme cases, I think they may even fear for their lives, depending with how big is that investment. So I think most of them have resigned, and we've come across, we talk with them because we are in the same sector, where we sometimes go and say, why are you silent about this thing that is happening there? And sometimes they tell us that there's nothing we can do, our hands are tied, but if you make noise, you people, maybe it can help us to engage and say, look what people are saying, what CSOs are talking about.
Yeah, you talk mostly about the Chinese. Are they the only miners in this country? Why do you keep mentioning? I haven't heard you mention anyone else except the Chinese.
Well, that's a very good question, actually. We have a report, actually, that is coming out on Chinese investments in Zimbabwe. The reason why I'm talking much about the Chinese is because they now occupy, I think, more than 90% of the investment space in Zimbabwe. So wherever you go around Zimbabwe, there are Chinese who are mining there. And almost 100% of the grievances we get from the communities is against the Chinese. Hence, the purpose of the report that we are doing is trying to understand the Chinese model. What do they stand for? What are they strong at? What are their weaknesses? Of course, we have companies like Zimplats, but which is a completely different model from the Chinese, in that when you look at Zimplats, they show that they understand what corporate social responsibility is. They've built a road, the Mondorongezi Road. They've built a town out of nothing.
Are you saying the Chinese are extractive?
Yes, yes. They are very extractivist in nature. And they can't build even houses for their own staff members.
So where do their staff stay?
Some of them, they will stay in, like, if they occupy a place where a mine used to operate, they use sometimes houses of the previous owner. In places like Wange, they have to come sometimes 30, 40 kilometers a day to come to work and go back home. Where they give shelter, the shelter is substandard, such that it's only for the time whilst the mining subsists. But we're talking about a country where we have towns that developed because of mining. They can't invest in education, the Chinese. They can't build schools. They can't build hospitals where they operate. So that's why we have this concern, because when you talk about mining, we must know that we are talking about a depletion of natural capital, a resource, an asset of the country. So there is need to compensate, first, the community that is disturbed by your mining activities. You need to give some public goods. And it's not an act of charity. It's to say, we are making noise against you. We are blowing dust into your homes, which can cause even lung disease. We are bringing mercury, cyanide, and all those things. Hence, we are compensating you by giving you some public goods. And the Chinese are not doing that. They're destroying roads. And when they destroy those roads, they are not even trying to rehabilitate those roads. And that is why Chinese are on the lips of every Zimbabwean, especially those in resource-rich areas.
So I'll just take a short break on this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. But on this short break, we're going to bring you just a few voices from Shurugwi along the Boterekwa, where they're talking about heap leach mining and cyanide in the rivers. So join me just after this short break.
You can see there's a lot of environmental degradation as a result of illegal gold panning activities along the valley.
Machina ndo adira machina isu tutecho tisaka manje tichazoramba chinda mberi machina uya dai vachitoparo chanda adikuona vanhu tozopona ira machina akauya anongoshandisa vanhu vaone mishina yawo havadi vachadodi kuona vanhu sezvatiri kufa kuona kuzokuti tichera tinobati kwedu percentage yedu ikoko haiwa havadero manje vanenge vasingatodi kuona chero munhu.
Welcome back to this, the Free Talk, in proud partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. I'm your host as usual, Dara B, and we're discussing mining, minerals, and benefit to local communities. And I'm joined here by Farai Magu, an environmental activist who has a special interest in mining and resource allocation in Zimbabwe. Now, Farai, we were talking about, we were basically having this conversation around the resources and their exploitation. But we have seen in places like Rishavane, in places even like Shurugwi, where there are a lot of resources there. But the communities remain very, very poor. Unlike the Mondorengezi situation that you've spoken about, we've seen clinics being built, we've seen schools being built. I think at one point I saw a whole primary school that had shoes and uniforms bought for them by the mine as they went to school. Now, what is the case of Zimbabwe? Are we a cursed people who are rich in mineral but poverty stricken?
Well, I think it's a leadership issue, and a leadership at various levels. But at the political level, I think government has failed to come up with a mining vision to say, what do we want to get out of mineral resource endowment? That's why we have such a hall of shame like Marange, where scientists and professors are going to come from all over the world, even for the next 100 years, to study what a resource-cursed community looks like, where billions came out of that community, but there is nothing to show for it. So there is need for government to open dialogue with citizens. The other thing is that Zimbabwe is blessed with mining expertise. We have mining experts who are dominating mining throughout the world. So when it comes to having the right people in the room to say, what do we do to get value from our mining? We don't come second to any country on the African continent. But what is happening now? They chase away the experts, the technocrats, and they appoint politicians. MMCZ is one such a corporation that must be staffed with qualified people, including gemologists. But it's staffed with politicians who don't understand how minerals should be marketed.
Is that a fact, though, that it's stuffed with politicians?
Yes, it's when I say it's stuffed with politicians, I mean political appointments, not necessarily people who are appointed on the basis of their expertise. So, if you talk to people who understand the role of MMCZ, they will tell you that there are many skills which are missing in that organization. like I said, they need a gemologist. They need someone, a specialist who understands diamond value chain. And right now, as we speak, Zimbabwe is selling its diamonds to Dubai, dirty diamonds, and I'm talking about things that I know. Dirty diamonds, which sometimes have got soil, and the value, it's very depressed because of the way the diamonds will be looking, the parcels. It only takes Dubai to clean those diamonds, and they appreciate maybe by 50% immediately. They have not yet even cut and polished them. So it takes experts to do that. So number one is that government must allow the experts to do their job and politicians to do their job. But if they conflate the two and bring politicians where experts must be, then we will continue to have these missed opportunities. Right now, we're talking of lithium. Zimbabwe is number one lithium producer on the African continent. But as we speak right now, the Chinese have overmined to a point that there is a market glut of lithium in the world. By November 2022, battery-grade lithium was costing $79 per ton. In August 2024, it's now costing about $11,000 per ton. And largely because China is over-extracting lithium, and largely from Zimbabwe. But despite the depressed prices, China has not changed in terms of the volume of production and export to China. So you need technicians, people who think and say, okay, wait a minute. In 2023, the Chinese were taking our lithium for $79 per ton. In 2024, they're taking our lithium for $11,000 per ton.
Sorry, you said $79 and 11,000 per ton?
Sorry, $79,000 per ton.
Okay.
Now it has gone down by over 80% to $11,000 per ton. So the question is it making business sense for us to continue extracting our lithium at that same level like in 2022 when the market prices were so high? Or we should rather slow down the mining until the market is favorable. A company called Finis in Australia has stopped mining lithium right now because they are saying the market is not favorable. But Zimbabwe, if you go to Forbes border post, you will find that trucks, 30-ton trucks, are snaking for 10 kilometers or so at some point, taking the lithium to the sea. By the time the lithium appreciates value, maybe back to $79,000 per carat, Zimbabwe has no more lithium in the ground. The lithium is now in China. If you try to go to China and say, sell me battery-grade lithium, they will tell you that it will cost maybe $90,000 per ton. So we are not making business decisions with our minerals. Yes, there may be some 5 or 10 politicians who are pocketing millions of dollars in exchange for mortgaging the lithium to China. But as a nation, the net loss that we are incurring is shocking and horrendous. So we have the skills, but I don't think we have the political will to say, here is what God has blessed our nation with. How can we make the most out of it? How can we make hay whilst the sun is shining? So it will be another missed opportunity. Very soon, I can tell you that at the rate at which lithium is leaving Zimbabwe, I think it will take about 3 to 5 years. We will start hearing that the lithium is depleted. It's gone.
Well, how do you then balance, Farai, the intention to make profit and to keep the company that is employed or is employing hundreds or thousands of Zimbabweans in lithium mining? How do you balance that to keep it profitable and to keep these people at work, or to slow down operations and shared jobs? How do you balance that impact on the community?
Well, you know, you can't have your cake and eat it. There's always some wins and losses, you know, at various levels of the value chain. But if the government determines that it's not the best time to extract our lithium, then certainly there will be some job losses, but I don't think those job losses are going to stop the Zimbabwean economy. People will still find something else to do. They will not die.
But someone would say that you are speaking from a point of privilege, that your job is not going to be on the line. And someone who is in Pikita right now, whose job might be on the line, does not agree with you. How do you push back on that?
I will tell them that minerals are very finite. Sooner or later, those minerals will be gone and those workers will still be looking for something else to do. So the shocks that come with mining are some of those things whereby a mine can say, we've come to an end, there are no more resources here. So they should expect that to happen. Even if they keep their jobs right now, at some point they are going to lose those jobs. But also it's important to highlight that the workplace in Zimbabwe, especially in the mining sector, is also something that we need to talk about, because what those workers are earning is very paltry, and it's very unfortunate that it's modern day slavery. In as much as people will say, yes, I've got a job where I go to every day, but the earnings are not comparable to what others are earning, even mining lithium elsewhere. You know?
These people, these mines are actually opened by the president most of the times. The members of parliament in those areas aren't they aware of these things, that there's modern day slavery and that people are not being paid well?
You know, one thing that we need to fix as Zimbabweans is not to always do everything for the media and for propaganda purposes. The politicians know, but you know, in Zimbabwe, we have this whip system where when parliamentarians go to parliament, their minds are supposed to toe the line of the party that sent them to parliament. So as a result, many parliamentarians know these things. Some of the issues that we bring up, we actually get them from those politicians. Unfortunately, our parliament does not promote representation. It's one element of our legislature that has died. Parliamentarians speaking for their people, they no longer do that. What matters to most of them is to remain in parliament. You know, parliament in Zimbabwe is also a place of employment creation where our legislators find it as a job, you know, where they also earn. That is a problem. Sometimes, even when you raise these issues to parliament, it does not have takers. I'll tell you that we petitioned Parliament on the 17th of November 2023 concerning Premier Estate. The petition was swept under the carpet for some time until we started pushing. Where is our petition? Then we were told to come and respond to the joint committees on environment and on mines. We went there, made the submissions. Then they said, we are calling the Minister of Mines and the EMA people. They were summoned. And they said, we're now going to Mtare. It's now 4 months. They've not yet gone there. And I don't even know whether they will ever go there. And one would be asking, why is Parliament hesitant to go on the ground and see what's really happening?
If it was amending the Constitution to extend certain...
You are saying it, not me. But you have those problems where our parliamentarians are very quick when it comes to political issues. But when it comes to representing their people, and I can tell you that people are going to die at Premier Estate. They're going to die because of mercury. someone is going to be crushed by those fly rocks coming from blasting. And if Parliament does not see that as something that is urgent and part of their mandate, then I don't know what qualifies.
Tell us what's happening. What are they mining at Premier Mekil?
Gold. They're mining gold. And that gold is not even benefiting this country because they have a room where they store the gold there. Even the mine manager, a black Zimbabwean, is not allowed in that room. It's only the Chinese. So what they submit to Fidelity for their retainer, no one really knows how much gold did they produce, because Zimbabweans are not allowed into the room where the gold is processed.
In our own country.
In our own country.
And the Chinese are the ones with control of our gold.
Absolutely, absolutely. And only 2 weeks ago, Chinese were arrested in Zambia with 29.9 kilograms of gold from Zimbabwe and about 200,000 United States dollars. This country is a crime scene, because that one was captured in Retail Square. There's 6 point something gold at the airport.
In the wrong bag.
Yeah, in the wrong bag. Now think, how many are successfully taking the gold out of the country? And how much difference would that gold mean if the royalties, everything that is due to the government is paid?
And the country, ZIG, is only supported by 1 ton of gold?
I don't even know whether that 1 ton is still there, but that is our challenge, where we are saying we want to strengthen our currency with gold, and at the same time we are hemorrhaging. The gold is flying in all directions, and those who are caught smuggling the gold are let scot-free. It's only the unfortunate Makorogoza. I remember a guy was caught with half a gram and he was sentenced to jail for 5 years. In Retail Square, 6 kilograms, she was fined some funny amount of money. So I don't think we are serious in terms of ensuring that gold is sacred. And if a person wants to smuggle gold, they must think twice, thrice before they do it. I don't think there is that enough political message that we don't tolerate smuggling. If anything, the case of Henrietta Squire demonstrate massive impunity for smugglers.
I mean, this is a matter that we have never had a serious discussion here around the free talk into our partnership, the Frederick Newman Foundation, basically because we have focused on issues around political power and stuff like that. But the issues that you talk about, Farai, bring, sad reading to Zimbabwe. Now, we are always receiving donations. We are in a drought at the moment, El Nino-induced drought, and we are throwing a begging barrel. Yet we have so much mineral resource. Is this not the time that we're supposed to be leveraging it to feed our people?
Absolutely, and it's very, very unfortunate. Zimbabwe is a wealthy country. I personally believe that annually we are losing in excess of 20 billion US dollars in terms of minerals that are smuggled, outright smuggling, minerals that are under-declared, and other criminal activities involving the exportation of our minerals. And the paltry budget that Zimbabwe has of about 4-point-something billion annually does not do justice to the revenue potential of government if all our minerals are properly accounted for. And I feel that sometimes the Zimbabwe Republic Police does a very good job, but they're let down sometimes by the judiciary. That when they arrest people and those people go to court, it's the courts which are letting those people scot-free. Sometimes there is a lot of political interference when criminals have been arrested in Zimbabwe. I remember that Israeli guy who flew into Harare, I think it was called Ishmael Klein. He flew into Harare around 11 a.m. 1 p.m. he was trying to fly out with more than 1,300 pieces of diamonds. The police did their job. The law enforcement officers at the airport, they did their job. But when they handed over that criminal to the courts, the prosecutor's office, the government ended up saying, no, it's fine. You only need a permit to take the diamonds out. But where did he get those diamonds from? Nobody wanted to deepen that knowledge. Why? He was probably acting in concert with some untouchables of Zimbabwe. So our country has got so many untouchables who say to them independence means the freedom to plunder your country. But you juxtapose that with the poverty in the country, the misery that the Zimbabwean people, I think of people in rural Matebele land. There are schools which have no roof. There are women who are walking about 15 kilometers to fetch water, a bucket of water. So the needs of our country versus the looting that is happening do not speak to each other. We need to do things differently.
I'm forced to take the blame here because I think the media, we need also to be able to highlight these things and to talk to these things. Because as you sit here talking to me, I start to think about Zisco still, how a whole hotel around Redcliffe was built out of Zisco steel, how a whole town, homes in Rutendo, in Toad, a whole stadium was built by Zisco steel, the existence of Zisco steel.
Yes.
There was a whole economy that came out of there. If you go into Kwekwe, you find that there's Zimask, which used to be called Union Carbide.
Mm-hmm.
The Kwekwe Polytechnic as a college was built by that mining company. Manunule High School was started by that mining company. And homes in Kwekwe that people live today. And then you start asking yourself, what happened? What happened? Because the mines were breathing life to communities. Right now, we don't see the light.
Absolutely, and it's heartbreaking. I share the pain and the sorrow. Look at Wange. They also had a football team which for many years was in the Premier League in Zimbabwe. Brought entertainment to the colliery, brought pride to the local people. You had Shabani, and all those things. It shows that mining can be a profitable enterprise, can also have linkages with other sectors of the local economy, including agriculture, manufacturing, sport, banking, and all those other things. But currently, the model that I've seen in Zimbabwe is simply extractivist. Get the mineral out, run away to China with that mineral. There is no master plan. Before you extract a mineral, you need a master plan. A master plan is to say, we have massive deposits of chrome in this area. When we mine this chrome, how are we going to ensure that this chrome is going to be the beginning of an economy, a localized economy? You start building homes for your staff. They have families. There's need for a school for the children. They get sick. There is need for a hospital, a clinic. There is need for livelihoods. Soon a baker is going to come and say, want to supply bread for these people. Those who make clothing, they want to supply clothing. All this come in a master plan. But there's no master plan because there's no dialogue. Mining is imposed on the community. There's no debate with the local people. What are your priorities? How can we make you part of what we are going to do? That is not happening. That's why the Zisco Steel story you've talked about is not being replicated by the current mining projects that are mushrooming in the country.
In fact, they bring their own pencils.
And their toothpicks and everything. So, yeah.
Amazing. I want to thank you very much, Farai, for having this conversation with us here on the Free Talk, in our partnership with the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. But I also think that we just started on the surface.
Yes.
And I think going forward, we are going to have more of these conversations and if possible, conversations with the communities that you serve, to be able to go and sit down with them and actually hear from them instead of hearing from the experts. Then we cover it up with your expert view, but after hearing from them, because some say that if you want to know how much the shoe hurts, ask the person who's wearing that shoe. Before I let you go, I'll give you an opportunity, just under 2 minutes, to say something that might be on your heart about this subject that we're talking about, but I didn't ask you to the people of Zimbabwe. I asked you to look at the people of Zimbabwe and have a conversation with them, just under 2 minutes, something that lies heavily on your heart that you'd want to share with.
Thank you, Blessed. I really appreciate that opportunity. I think Zimbabweans, these mineral resources can be a blessing. Unfortunately, our nation is intoxicated by politics. We are very much alive when it comes to political issues. But I believe these are the things that matter, that we need to invest our time and expertise in. Shaping a new narrative. It's not all gone. We still have these resources in the country. Hence, there is still need to say, with what we still have, what can we do going forward? We need our politicians, we need our parliamentarians, our senators, our councillors, and our universities as well. They must come to the party. They should not just be given theories. They need to come with models of how can we make mining a profitable industry with shared prosperity for all stakeholders. So I want to thank you, Blessed, for giving me that opportunity to come and share my views on this.
Amazing. Now, Zimbabwe has an amazing mining world. Over 60 minerals, as Farai says. I mean, when you talk of platinum, where they are processing platinum, there are other minerals that are within that mineral resource, palladium and stuff like that. A whole lot of other minerals, and some minerals probably that we have not even been made aware of, and we remain a poor nation with rich mineral resources. This must not be the case. This should not be the case. This should not be allowed in our lifetime. And it's time for us to engage with those who we have entrusted constitutionally to lead this country, to protect its resources. We cannot always say nyika inovakwa nevene vayo, yet the resources are not being enjoyed and benefited for or with by their vene, unless our definition of vene excludes or includes a few elites. Now, this is the Free Talk in proud partnership, the Frederick Newman Foundation for Freedom. But as we leave this week, we're going to do something different. We are going to allow you to watch, after this interview, a documentary that we did on environmental degradation in Shurugwi and the Boterekwa platform, where there's alluvial gold mining, leach mining, and a threat to a whole ecosystem in Shurugwi. Now, until next time, this is me, Dara B, your host as usual, and this is, and this will always be the Free Talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dara.
Boterekwa, the scenic, picturesque, and mountainous treasure of Shurugwi, once a tourist attraction is now living under the burden of large-scale environmental depth mining operations. What do they use to dig here?
It's all about pick and shovel. There's no machinery, but these are just individuals.
The operations are allowed to go unchallenged by Midland's Zanu PF political elites and law enforcement agents are causing unmitigated water and environmental pollution and degradation to levels that have shocked even the Environmental Management Agency, EMA, mandated with protection of the environment under Zimbabwean law. Investigations by HSTV News and Current Affairs and Zimbabwe's leading weekly paper, The Standard, revealed the extent in which political elites, Chinese miners, and locals are milking the environment dry to feed their own pockets.
Some Chinese companies which are coming in as perhaps as a result of the national president's open for business policy. I cannot rightly say who exactly is partnering them, but I know there are some Chinese who are operating there. Okay. It's not only Boterekwa, there's another place which is behind our Fen Creek source of water there. They are also doing some operations, including the Chabata mines.
Akadira mutsumsiri mwandiro mumoso ipapa patiri tichandira hatitongota mheno yedu tikasatorigwa mataneji edu kozi varotouya hwaya uya nemishina yavo yavanenge vachitarisisa mabhandiji mamepu asi mheno hatogozive zvedu handimoona kuti saizozitaona chinoendasha saka ndatirega ndibvunze kuti chiiti unosangana nezvimwe zvinhu zvasati wakamboona savane vachiuya nazvo because patatoraramira pacho izvezvo kutoenda tichitonyangira because ai vakutova nedzimwe pfungwa anochibva pamwe pacho munhu asi kupashanda ngokuti vano ndiri kuraramira ipapa handisi kuba chinhu chake
ndiri Boterekwa ranga rakanaka kairi ndikuona
anzi mariona saretona machaina.
EMA's Midlands Provincial Manager Benson Basera talks about the Chinese dominance in Boterekwa. He even talks about how they've ended up being the major miners in that valley.
The dimension of a certain group or a certain people. Are they local? How did they come here? We have touched the issue of bilaterals. And we are now talking to someone on the ground. Bilateral issues. If I am heard commenting on bilateral issues, the Chinese, they are everywhere. They are doing Swanate. But even tarovana navo tabari wainotai kutaridza nezvatinoita. But vakauya sei? Warota here chiro vane njia yese yavanoona vari kuchaina. Pano patiri pangaita munyonga ndosomudza muchaina.
Saka amusati mambotaurawo kuti machaina kuti varegedze.
Unotaura nani? Aizvezi mandakadai sona mutaro anongaudza kuti machaina aregedze ndiani papa. Anongaudza inini nezvandiri zvamakanditarira inini ndakadai so anongaudza ndiani papa. Hakuna.
Kuma politician acho anouya vachikumhuraya havamugoni kutaurawo navo here kuti vakumirire.
Vane vaitotaura tiri kutozvikonewawo isi. Iyo nyaya iri kuitika kuti hai varongotorawo vane zvinzvimbo vachiwanawo vachitiwo ndepedu anomaona pabudawo mari vodoti ndepedu vachimhura ipapa ukasvika ukatanga kudochera pakaonekwa mari votomhura vachiti ndepedu.
Saka munoita sei manje kana makumhurwa nemapolitician?
Totongomugwa tiwanewo kuti tirarame tichinda tine nazvo chikuru tawanawo yatasara naye.
Saka vanenge vari pachipi manje?
Zozoka. Unongo wachitwa kurenza kana obvious but unongotonga ndiri.
Gold mining by large Chinese companies along the Great Dyke is at the center of deforestation and contamination of Mteweki River through cyanide and sulfur effluent, which is now dumped on the riverbed. This is Mteweki River just behind me, where hundreds of people from Shurugwi are making a living out of alluvial gold mining. This is what they use to sift through large amounts of sand, as you can see, just to get a few points of gold to sustain their livelihoods and send their children to school. This is the story of Shurugwi.
Marona sareto na machina arino nzipilichi korova mawe machiunganidza vachidira mumatsi mvura avo so iwe mvura yacho manje ukananzva chinhu chairi mavaviro inoita mvura inoafekta iyoyo manje chero maziso ayo inopedzera achiafekta mvura iyoyo zvotinova kuti maziso angu kasvika pazoitwa zvinhu zvavo anopedzera achivava zvimwe zvokuti
iyi yatinoshandisa panapa atinoona pakatobloka paikuyerera napapo sekuti mvura yemurwizi muno haimwiwi kuna Mteweki nokuti kumusoro kune matengi zvinoitwa zvemakabhoni zvazvo saka ine chitori nesaineti haitomwiwi mvura yemuno haitombomwiwi
mvura yacho haicheni Mteweki muduku Mteweki rukuru una Mteweki ruduku.
After sifting tons of mud, the gold is found, but it shows traces of cyanide, as the miners explain.
You know, Sarah Mashuri?
Yes, I about to make curia.
Oh, Sarah make you a shepherd?
Inquisimo.
Murism, they make it. You vote?
I know, Bob. Let guys, what you put in my mind is this. My mind does nobody. So, you just look, you don't know what did I see. Make you remove.
Emma does not deny the presence of mercury in the rivers. It does not deny the presence of sulfur or pollution. But they say they have not dictated these traces themselves. And they pledge to investigate and test the waters.
Those communities who have reported or who are giving those highlights, we are not disputing that there can't be any pollution, especially in an area that is full of mining activities, some which have been legalized, some which, the majority of which are illegal.
This was one of the most sought after golf courses in Zimbabwe. Now this golf club, or what used to be a golf club, is now a heap of rubble. The white settler colonial regime, many used to earn their living here. But with the coming of Chinese mining activities here in Shurugwi, it's now reduced to rubble.
Saka apachatotambwe golf ka?
Apachatambwa.
Saka vanhu vanotandara kubhuzi kuona papa kanzi paki ka?
Kwachitandara? Vaitandara pazasi papapo pane mabhidhingi achine ground regova. Iye zvino hakuchina zvakavhaka.
And those of our kith and kin say the Chinese are chasing them away and they are leaving a trail of environmental degradation, high levels of pollution, and a poor Zimbabwe.
Machina ndo adira Machina izvitutecha kuti saka manje tichazoramba chinda mberi machina uya dai vachitoparo chanda adi kuona vanhu tozopona here. Machina akauya anongoshandisa vanhu vaone mishina yawo ava hadi vachadodi kuona vanhu sezvatiri kutokufa kuona kuzokuti tichichera tinobatirwa edu percentage yedu ikoko haiwa havadero manje vanenge vasingatodi kuona chero munhu.
Alluvial gold mining and heap leaching are now the two biggest threats to Boterekwa's flora and fauna, including many people's homes. A whole river's natural course of flow has been altered just to provide illegal gold miners an opportunity to eke a living. These they do obvious to the threats of their actions to the environment and to inhabitants.
Panapa parwisi patiri kushanda ndinoona sekuti vanhu vari kushanda panapa pasi kucherwa, vari kungotora ivhu rakaungana vachirisuka. Njodzi dzinowanikwa kumakomba aya tinochera aya ndokanogona kuwanikwa njodzi dzekuti rinogona kudhirika rowira rovhara munhu upenyu hwake hwadetsakatika. Iko tinosangana nawo ekubatwa nemugodhi, kupfimbirirwa kana kukachiwa nematombo sezvezvi tichera dombo rinogona ngodonha rokukatsa kana tsoka. Injodzi dzatinosangana nadzo pamabasa iwaya. Mari yekuti tichienda kuchipatara inenge yava kuti challenge, inenge yava kutinetsa. Saka nguva tinotombonofa kukwereta mabhaya tohodzoserawo kana tichinge taiwana tichibatsirike kana tichinge tawirawo nenjodzi dzakafanana dzandiri kutaura idzi, kuti tinogona kukachiwa nematombo tichishanda. Itsaona dzatinosangana nadzo pamabasa iwaya edu aya.
Matambudziko atosanganidzana nawo ndekuwigwa nemugodhi iwayaya kuti naya kudai so mugodhi inenge ichiwira adzizongotituma manje kuinda inyaya yekuti tikatoreka kuinda mhuri dzedu dzodofane zvarapo tichiroja saka manje ashandi totongozvifoseredza kuinda.
When you are doing open cast mining, you leave those ugly pictures of the environment, which used not to be very common in our area. So I think that's the only part I'm worried of. So perhaps through our engagements, we are going to encourage these operators that once they do their open cast mining, they should rehabilitate the land so that the surrounding, because whilst I have said Boterekwa is in RDC, but to us as a town, we've got people who come wanting to see Boterekwa, wanting to see the Dunraven Falls, but with the openness of the open casts, then it does not give us the beauty of the area. So if we engage them, I'm sure there's going to be rehabilitation of the land so that the town retains its historical state.
I talked to Moses Mgugunyeki, a journalist who grew up in Shurugwi, before the mining activities had become uncontrolled and uncontrollable. The golf courses torn apart, falls now fallen, and the quiet, serene environment all but disappeared. It's just a mess.
Dunraven Falls in Boterekwa Valley, formerly known as Wolfshaw Pass. It was one of the most places visited by tourists here in Shurugwi. Behind me, you can see there's a lot of environmental degradation as a result of illegal gold panning activities along the valley. Upstream, there's Dunraven Falls, which used to be one of the tourist attractions here in Shurugwi. And upstream again, there is what is known as Saunders Golf Club, which was one of the most sought after golf courses in Zimbabwe. And also in that area, there's what is known as Fen Creek. Fen Creek is where we have this flower, which was a national flower, which is called flame lily. So it was a botanical garden with rare species of flowers, and there was a swimming pool, there were some chalets, and it was one of the most attractive places in Shurugwi. Now it has been turned upside down by various mining companies, including Sino, which is running Zimasco, to turn the golf course upside down.
But the town is succumbing to indiscriminate mining, and the mayor tells us that probing names and investigating those behind the mining activities is a dangerous game that could lead to death. The environmental police, those mandated by the law, are now concentrating on picking litter and ignoring the environmental degradation. And the numerous flouting, the provincial manager Benson Basera was skating on issues, saying it was a political hot potato. He was even unhappy to speak to us on camera, but poured his heart out to me and my crew. If he is talking about the Chinese miners and upsetting the political elites. So for this reason, his team has focused more on litter than the massive threats posed by mining activities in the mineral region.
As the truth in the degradation is going unabated. Unabated, so we are crying this way. Kusowana ema yote ngati chimboita tinochinja ma strategy. Take it from me, Emma is doing everything possible. Uchiwandi chidai ndiri kukuudza kuti ndinozviwa zvaunotaura asi the best approach ndonga offer the issue iri kuku inoda ma-stakeholders edu tose tiripo kuti ndisazoita sokuti I'm talking about someone ndonga zvinoti we have tried kumboita inonzi civil protection issue because SM takatodeclare kuti no issue yemutelemba should be a civil protection issue because Emma does not have people. Emma does not have minors. Emma inoshanda nevamwe takamboshanda kuse Emma tichizama it's inaccessible, it's what inoda a holistic approach. That's why we have said whatever is going to TDC coordinate everything so that everything goes through what civil protection. Kana mawachiti madzishi ukaipafiwa paboderi panotonzi panonzi danger pabucha panofichwa area yeRural District Council tobetserana because Emma we have got a Supremo Act tirikuita enoda yekutaridza but information pamwe inenge ichirichi yekutoti kuuya kwamaita ino matonditaurira on time ndaitoudzawo vakuru kunyangwe vekuministry kunyangwe vakuru kuti there is someone coming because muchasaita. That's why ndiri makaona takaiona kuti toisa through civil protection tochewa nokucoordinate wanani na TDC takambotoita imwe meeting vezera varipo maupetsa aripo madzisha aripo kanzuro iripo tatoona kuti civil protection onai Emma tiri kuita but we are visitors inzvimbo ine varidzi mune makuru evanhu madzisha ivani mune kanzuro ndiri munodaro vemaizimira uyai vakataha vakati kudini vari vachiita zvinozva zvinoti uya tiri vana vanokoordinatewa neumwe saka kuti tichitaura zvinhu zvecivil protection takaungana Ndini ndichiarticulate zvangu. I can articulate everything, whatever am I done. We've done virtually everything. That is the situation. Do you know what is needed?
The Zimbabwean government is talking about a US dollar 12 billion economy.
Agency mabhaya anouya achitenga goridhe vanoradza vanenge vachibva kufidelity vanouya vanomira vachiona goridhe riri vachibuda muno mudzuzi vane vachiritenga ndo vanonotipa mari ivavo.
It's banking on chrome, gold, platinum, lithium and other minerals. But hardly has the impact of these operations come to the spotlight. The environmental damage, the displacement of locals, and illicit financial flows associated with are something that has been ignored. Boterekwa, the home of mist, cool weather, and minerals is under threat. The political elites benefit. The locals wallow in poverty. Foreign investors loot. The scars of the environment, the degradation, remains with the people of Zimbabwe. Long after the minerals are gone, our great-grandchildren will see the scars of an unrehabilitated Shurugwi that once was, that is no more. Blessed Mhlanga, HSTV, News and Current Affairs.
Mutengo wehuku wakutenga sai